look at the learning objectives and see what we have covered so far, chapter 2. So describe how Python interpreter executes code. Okay, so it's line by line. Describe and use tab completion. So if you start typing and then you press tab key and if a similar phrase exists in the namespace, then it's going to fill it out for you. It could be one of the functions in Python, or it could be one of the variable names that you have used. And question mark and the name of a function will give you some help information at the bottom of the screen. Inline and multiple line comments. Okay, so pound sign for inline comment, and 3 quotation marks, either single quote or double quote, will give you multiple line comments. Okay, valid variable names, we looked at that. Describe the use of various valid scalar types. So scalar types, you had like none is one of the scalar types which is sometimes used, and then there's numeric scalar types, so 2 of them, integer and floating point, and then we have string, okay, and then we have dates. Okay, we're going to look at dates today. The built-in functions, so binary operators is like plus minus 2 stars and slashes and percentage, and so a whole bunch of those that you operate with 2 scalars. Okay, so describe, all right, list and use useful built-in string functions. So there is a bunch of them. We went over those last week. Okay, explain typecasting, so going from floating point to integer to floating point, a string to integer or a string to floating point. Okay, of course, to go from string to floating point or integer, the string must be a valid numerical string. Okay, if it's not a numerical string, then you're going to get error. So that's typecasting. Now, date time object. So that's where we're going to begin this week. So again, one more. Normally speaking, when you have a large data set, okay, so you're going to have a lot of integer columns or floating point columns, and they normally will not have a whole lot of errors in them, but there may be some typos here and there. The string type is the one that's likely to have lots of errors that you have to look for and correct. And then there is dates. Okay, so the date data type is again a very important source of headache in terms of fixing, and also to use it in computation. Okay, for one thing, dates are used in different formats by different countries. So here we start with month, and then the day of the month, and then the year. So the year could be, some people may code it with 2 digits, some people may code it with 4 digits. Okay, and the dates may be separated. Okay, the day, the month, and the year could be separated with a hyphen, or it could be separated with a forward slash, or may not have any, they will all be stringed together. Okay. And usually when you have data set that you're importing into Python, the dates will come in as a string. It won't come as a date. So if you have string date, then you cannot do date-related operations. Like if you want to know what month that date is in, or what year the date is in, or what week of the year that date is. Okay, like for instance, it is the hire date. Okay, so which month was the person hired, or to figure out how many months of experience a particular person has. Or if you have date of birth and then you want to compute the age of the person. So you need those not as a string, but as a data. So Python offers data type, okay, that is distinct for dates. And it also offers a whole bunch of functions that you can use to convert date coming in as a string into a date data type. Okay, converting string into date data type, and then from that date data type, figuring out the year, the month, and so on. So that's the kind of thing that date functions or date data type offers us. So let's okay, so we are here. Okay, the first thing we note, and this is the first time that we're using a library. Okay, a library in Python is like a bunch of functions that have been written in Python code. So somebody has already done all the work for us. So all we have to do is to access those functionalities using the function names, okay, and then use them to do whatever that we want. So datetime is one such library, okay, and datetime has a whole bunch of functions that are available to us. Okay. One way of getting access to the functions that are in that library is to use a statement like this. You say from, then the name of the library. Okay, of course, the library must be present in your Python folder, and some of these libraries are automatically installed. When you install Python, a whole bunch of libraries are automatically installed because they are very popular or very useful libraries. But there are some libraries that are very unique to certain functional areas or certain models. Okay, like for example, machine learning models. So there is what is called sklearn. So well, that's also installed already. So all you have to do is to invoke it. There are libraries for doing, say, Monte Carlo simulation or discrete event simulation, which are not something that people ordinarily do. They are very specialized modeling techniques. So they are not probably, I'm not sure, they are not probably automatically installed, in which case we have to install it. And to install those, a library that is not already there, so what you have to do is to go to Anaconda Navigator, and you go to environments. Okay, so and then you have the installed libraries right here. And then you can look at what libraries are not installed, right? And then you can search for, a library that you want, and you can update and all that. So I'm not going to go into how to update or how to bring in a new library that is already not there right now. Okay, so when we need it, I'll show you how to do it. But right now, let's go on with and datetime is one of those very, very popular and very useful libraries. So it's already in there, already installed. So all you have to do is to say from this library, okay, we're going to import these 4 functions only. Okay. But if you want the entire library to be available, then you would not say from this, and you simply say import datetime. Okay, and we will look at examples of that also later. For now, these are the 4 that are useful. Datetime is a function that you can use to convert a date that is in string format into a date data type. Okay? And then date gives you the date part of the data, date data. Okay? Time gives you the time part. Time delta is an interval of time. And you can specify interval of time in terms of seconds, minutes, days, weeks, and months, and so on. So we're going to use all 4 of them. Okay, so let's start with running this line of code. Okay. So now once that is done, you get access to all of these 4 different functions from the date time library. Okay, so syntax for the first one we're going to use is date time. So create date time object using date time function. So this is date time function. It comes from a library with the same name. Okay, date time is the same name used for the entire library, and within that library there is a specific function called date time. Okay, so date time has this format. Okay, so you have to specify the year and then the month and then the day. Okay, those three are required, and then you can optionally specify the hour, the minute, the second, the microsecond, and on and on. And this is time zone information if you want to include time zones. Okay, sometimes time zones are important, so you may want to include that time zone information. So these are optional. So these three are year, month, and day must be given. All right. So here is a way of a couple of examples. So dt1 is I'm using the date time function, the year, the month, and the day. And in the second example, I have year, month, the day, and then the hour, minutes, and seconds. So if you run, so when you don't give the time portion of it, the time portion is automatically, zeros are assigned for that time portion. But if you specify time, a particular time, then that time is included. Okay. Now, so you may ask, what about if the time is in 12-hour AM, PM type of format? So we will come to that in just a second. Right now it's in military form. Okay. All right. Any questions? All right. Then once you have that, then you can peel off, okay, whatever that you want from that object. So dt1 is a date time object, and then if you say dt1 date, it will give you just that date alone. Okay, it will cut off the time part. Okay, and dt2, the second one, if I say dot time, so date gives you only the date part, dot time will give you just the time part. Okay. All right, so this is the basic information about these two. We'll look at time delta in just a second.